Hi, everybody. I'm Patricia Reiff. I'm a professor in physics and astronomy at Rice University, and I'm the director of the Master of Science teaching program at Rice, where I offer courses for teachers in astronomy and space science and in ham radio. This semester, I'm doing the teaching astronomy lab course. So I'm teaching teachers how to operate telescopes and binoculars and cameras and teach them how to film the upcoming eclipses. But one of the tools that I use a lot in my teacher astronomy classes is Stellarium. It's a great tool because it's free, and so you as a teacher can use it in your class, assuming the school district allows you to, and also make assignments for your students in class as well. So it's a pretty intuitive piece of software, but it does have some tips and tricks that I have amassed over the years. And so I want to show you some of the things that I've learned so that you can put them to use for yourself. Okay, so the first thing to do is to download it, but with one caveat, and that is if you have an old version of Stellarium, you can install on top of your existing Stellarium, and it will preserve your configuration file, so it'll know where you are. However, this latest update of Stellarium is kind of a big update and has some new options in the configuration file. So if you already have Stellarium, I suggest that you save your existing configuration file and let it write a new one for you. And then after you've done that, you can go back and compare your old and your new configuration file, and anything that you liked that was in your old configuration file, you can put into your new one. So none of the old options have been removed, but there are a few new ones that are helpful. So if you preserve your old config file, then you might miss out on some of the features. Okay, so then the first question is, where the heck is my config file? Because it's not obvious, and it's intended, unfortunately, to be non-obvious. So I'm going to share the screen. So if somebody's in the waiting room, I don't know if you guys can see if somebody's in the waiting room.
I don't think we can.
I don't think you can either. Well, let's hope we can. Okay, so here's my nicely cluttered desktop. And don't ask me why there's so many phones and stuff on my computer. It's very annoying. All right, so the place where your config file is depends on whether you are a Mac or a PC user. So I'm going to do the PC one first, and if anyone still needs to do it, so you go to my PC, okay, and it's in your user. So my username on this computer is called Discovery Dome because I use this computer in my planetarium. And there is a folder in your user which is called app data. Okay, and you'll notice it's kind of grayed out. Okay, so what it means is, it's really annoying, all these noises. I just updated this OS, and so app data is a folder which is a hidden folder. Okay, so in order to see it, you have to go to View and check where it says hidden items. Okay, so you go to your home directory, you make sure this is checked hidden items, and then this folder called app data will show up. So once you go to app data, and it's under roaming, and don't ask me why it's under roaming, there will be a folder called Stellarium. And here is my config.ini file that was most recently created today. Okay, so before I will do a new version, a new installation of Stellarium, then I would go here, right click it, and rename it to like config share or config date, you know, put the date on it. Okay, so, you know, just anything. All right, so the next time it opens up Stellarium, it'll see that there's not a config file there, and it will create a new one for you based on what the defaults are at the time. And if you install a new one, it will create a new one for you. So that's what I would do before doing a big change in Stellarium. If you're just doing a minor change in Stellarium, you don't have to do that. Stellarium had for decades been in 0.8 and 0.9. It's actually now in version 1.23. So I think they're trying to tell us it's stable finally. So that's how I will essentially save that config file so that it's remade when I open Stellarium. Okay. The other thing you might want to do when you before you update Stellarium is to save the Western color constellations if you've already downloaded them, because anything that is already in your Stellarium folder, which is in the C drive under program files, again, it will normally install into Stellarium. And you notice I keep some old versions around, which of course you don't have to do. But when you do a new Stellarium, it will write into your Stellarium folder. If you so if there's something you have personally edited into it, then you want to be sure you save that somewhere, rename it, call it someplace else, so that it doesn't overwrite it. So for example, in sky cultures, we frequently put in the color Western constellations. Okay, so and I'll show you how to do that. So the default is a gray shaded, and every time you update your operating system, sometimes all your defaults just go away. Okay, so I have color sky cultures in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Western one, which I've already done as color, and I'm going to copy it, Control C, and I want to send a copy to, no, I don't want to Dropbox it. I want to copy it to the desktop. Okay. All right. So now that I've saved the two things that you want to save, the two things I want to save. Now you may have other things you want to save. For example, in Stellarium, you can create your own landscape. So that with your own horizon that looks like, your school, you can create that. So if you've created a custom landscape, any of those things that you've done customizing Stellarium, be sure you pull them off, put them in a different folder before you update Stellarium. Okay. So now that we've saved both the config file and we've saved the Western constellations, now we can install Stellarium. And it installs pretty quickly, so I'm going to go ahead and redo it. So I go to, when I normally do downloads, I usually save the installer file because I don't, in case it gets lost. So what we'll do is we'll go to Firefox and we will go to Stellarium.org. All right, now Stellarium.org has, yeah, thanks, Tim, I found it. Stellarium.org, you notice, has a bunch of options on downloading the Stellarium app. So for a newer Windows machine, you're going to want the Windows 64-bit app, and that goes into the programs folder. If you want to do the Windows 32-bit app, that would go into the programs parenthesis x86 folder. Okay, and then here are our two versions of the Mac version. Okay, so we're going to download the Windows one, and it's going to save it for us. It didn't take long. If you're on a good speedy internet, that's 392 megs. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do, see where it says user guide down here? You'll probably want to download that too, because it is very helpful. It's got a lot of material in it, lots of activities. Okay, so let's get out of Firefox. Okay. All right, now we're going to go to our downloads, and here is our Stellarium. And neither Stellarium nor Space Update, which is my software I'm going to talk about later, are official Windows machines. So sometimes you'll get a message from your operating system saying, do you really want to do this? And so, you just say yes. It's not a Microsoft verified app, okay? So say install anyway. Now, if that becomes a problem, if you're using a school-owned machine, then you may have to have a discussion with your IT people. Okay, I don't know if you on Stellarium can see this, but I mean, it's asking me, do I want to allow this app to make changes to your device? And again, this is just another security thing. And you say, yes, you may change my computer.
Anyway, we hope that you build it anyway.
Okay. And please mute yourself unless you're talking. All right. So now it says what language? So we'll say English. And it's got the usual licensing agreements. And it's going to put it into program files. Yep, that sounds good. And it says create a desktop shortcut. Sure. Okay. And now it's going to install. And again, it really doesn't take long to install. Omar, mute.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please mute.
I
Okay, I muted you. Never mind. Oh, I don't want to pin him. Okay. All right. That's one of the nice things about being a host. You can mute people, but I've got it set that you can unmute yourself. All right, so now let's launch it. So the first time it launches, depending on how new your computer is, it might try to find your location from your computer. So it kind of guesses where your location is. Some of the early ones used, this out of the way, used France as the default location, okay? But see it, now can you all see this, my Stellarium screen?
Yes, I can.
Ah, good.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is basically a horizon view, and it will tell you down here at the bottom that your field of view is 60 degrees, okay? And it thinks I'm in Houston, which is great. And it says I'm at 0 feet above sea level, which is pretty darn close. I'm actually about 10 meters above sea level. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you start Stellarium is to pick your location. And so, you know, I type in Houston, and there it says it found me. I click on it. It says latitude and longitude. And if I want to now adjust this, because I'm in North Houston or South Houston or, you know, a suburb, I can adjust the latitude and longitude. The newer ones allows you to get their location from the GPS. And then if you click use current location as default, then that means the next time you start it up, it remembers where you are, okay? And you can create your own custom name. So you could create your latitude and longitude and create a name for it, and it will be your default location. And it shows you here. You can also click around, but this is pretty coarse, although sometimes I click to show what you look like from the south, what stars look like from the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. You can do it quickly that way. Okay, so the first thing is to set your location. And then the next thing I normally do is try to go to all sky. So there's several ways to change your field of view. One of the easiest ways is to use 2 fingers on the trackpad. And if you push the trackpad away from you, you're zooming out. That's a little too much because we've gone up to field of view 235. Okay. And if you pull it towards you, it zooms in. Okay. So now we're at about close to 180. And there's also a command 1 that will put you into 180 directly. Okay. So about this time I ask, you know, my students, how many stars do you see in the sky? And they say, you know, none. And I said, well, you know, what do we call this thing over here? And oh yeah, there's a star there. And why can't you see more than 1 star in the daytime? And they'll give you different answers, but the true answer is it's because of the atmosphere. The atmosphere scatters sunlight so that it makes our sky look bright. And so if we in Stellarium want to see what the sky would look like if there were no atmosphere, and that would work if you were on the space station or on the top of a very high mountain, we'll just hit the letter A and it turns off the atmosphere. So now we can see, you know, what's in the sky even in the daytime. So here's our sun setting. And one of the fun things to do is to turn on the ecliptic, and that is a comma. And see, now I can see the ecliptic going across the sky. And son of a gun, look what we got. We've got the sun, Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, Moon, Uranus, Mars, and Neptune, all up in the evening sky. Okay, so really convinces you that the planets are all on the ecliptic. Okay, now to make time go faster, we hit the L key, and you can see it changing the time down here on the pop-up. So there's a pop-up on the left and a pop-up on the bottom. And each time I hit L, it will make it go a little further. We'll start to see some satellites going across. Okay, and I can turn it again, make it go even faster. Now to make it stop, I hit K. Okay, so now I've stopped at 1826. So again, this is what the sky is going to look like. Now, yesterday, and I can go back one day by hitting the minus key, boom, the moon and Jupiter were very, very close together. And a few days before that, we had the moon and Venus and Saturn close together. Okay. So once we see, and to go back to today, to right now is the number 8, but I don't want to do that because I want to keep it in the evening. So I just hit the equal sign, which is to jump ahead one day till we get back to today. And here we are on that's the 27th. Let's go back to the 26th. So here we are today, here's tonight. And I can now rotate the sky just by clicking it and dragging it. Okay. So here's kind of what I would see looking west. And again, I might want to zoom in, and zooming in, I pull it toward me. And I can lift up the horizon each time I zoom in. I can lift up the horizon a little bit more. Okay, so this is kind of what it would look like after dark tonight. Now, one of the nice things about Stellarium is it does accurately the tilt of Saturn, you know, what side of the rings you'd be seeing. It does accurately show the phases of Venus. It does accurately show the right face of Jupiter, if the red spot is visible or not, and all of Jupiter's moons. And it shows properly the phases of the moon. So you can easily go through the phases of the moon, Jupiter's satellites, and the phases of Venus, and basically teach all of that, everything that Galileo learned, which was the underpinnings of all of modern astronomy, you know, in 10 minutes. And that's usually what I do to start off, is to say, okay, what phase is the moon today? So anything you want to see in close up, you click on it. Okay. If you hit the space bar, it centers it. And then to zoom in, you hit the slash up, which is the one underneath the question mark. So I'm going to slash up. And now I have the moon. Okay. And again, if it's too small or too large, you just do those 2 fingers on the trackpad to zoom in or zoom out. So here's what the phase of the moon is now. It stays centered, and I can use that day ahead or day back to see what it has been, and it'll stay centered. So go back, back, back. So there was the 23rd, and there was the 22nd. So at the 22nd, it was just barely a very, very young moon, and that was the beginning of the lunar new year. And now hitting the plus key, we go faster and faster until we get to the 28th, where it's about first quarter, and continue getting waxing gibbous until it's full, and it'll be full around the 4th. And then we hit the 5th, 6th, oops. Why did it disappear? Because on the 6th, the moon isn't up at 6:30 in the evening. it becomes a waning gibbous and it doesn't come up till after sunset. The other thing you can easily see is the changes of size of the moon as it changes through the month. And that's another fun thing to do with your class. So let's go back to today. And now to zoom out, the /down key, which is above the enter, between enter and backspace on the right hand, there's a /down, and that zooms back out. And you can, one of the settings you can put is that when you zoom out, it returns you to your initial field of view, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, so now let's look at Jupiter. So we'll click on Jupiter, /up to zoom in, and you notice it's got some moons with it. Let's zoom out just a little because the moons are fairly large, or we can zoom in. So if we had a telescope right now, well, at 6:30, I should say, an hour from now, you would be able to see the red spot. Now, the red spot isn't always that easy to see. And in fact, it seems to be getting a little less contrast now than it used to. But now we can zoom into all of this stuff, all of the moons too. So I can zoom into Io. And again, it gives you the proper face. And it's nice pizza of Io. And now we can turn on time and let the moons of Jupiter. Oh, first I'm going to center on Jupiter. I'm going to zoom out just a pitch. All right, now I'm going to turn on time. And there's several ways I can do that. One is to keep hitting that L again. So you want to be sure you don't hit, where to go? Stop. Come back. You were supposed to stay centered, baby. Yes, what happened is it went below ground because it's okay, so here's Jupiter again. All right, let's center it, zoom in. Let's try this again, and we'll speed up time. And now what's going to happen before the moons move very far? Jupiter's going to set. So we're going to avoid that by hitting the letter G, which turns off the Earth. So it allows us to look through the Earth. And so we can watch the moons orbiting Jupiter, even if it's underneath the horizon. So now let's turn up time a little bit more. Now, one thing you will notice is that Jupiter will rock back and forth because we're always viewing this with respect to our local horizon. And so because it's up in the sky and down in the sky, it appears to rock back and forth from Stellarium as we turn on time. But now you can see all the different moons, and you can actually calculate, watch, how long each moon takes to orbit Jupiter. And what you find is they're all doubles of each other. It's Io is like 1.87 days, and Ganymede is 3.8, and Europa and Callisto. So they're all multiples of each other, and that's why Io has volcanoes. Okay, so again, K stops, and 8 brings us back to right now. Okay, and we will then zoom back out with the backslash. All right, so now let's look at Saturn, what it looks like right now. And you notice I got rid of the G for the ground, so I don't have the horizon anymore. So I'll turn that back on. So now I've got my horizon back. And we'll look at what Saturn looks like tonight. And again, you see the the biggest moons are shown, and the right orientation of the rings and the right location of all the planet, all the moons. Okay, let's zoom back out. Now let's look at Venus. So I always, when I pull up Venus, I say, what phase is Venus? And is it getting more full or is it getting less full? Anybody know? Obviously gibbous, which means it's more than half full. And by the way, you can find all the information on everything you click on will pop up just tons of information, and you can go in and edit this so that you don't see all of this if you want. Okay, so it will say, what the sidereal time, what's its magnitude, minus 3.9, what's its albedo, and let's see, yeah, illuminated 92.3%. So the question is it getting more full or less full? Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm going to zoom out. Here comes Omar again. All right, now I'm going to let time go ahead, and I will do that by holding down the equals key. We'll be stepping ahead a day at a time. And again, I'm going to turn the ground off again. So here we go. And what is happening? It's becoming less full, okay? But something else is happening. It's now about half full, okay? Illumination, 57.7, so we're still not quite there. So we'll give it a few more days. Zoom. Okay, that's a little past. Okay, now it's just about 50%. Okay, what day is that? That's not till June. So it's going to be in the evening sky most of this year. And the magnitude is actually brighter. So it was magnitude minus 3.9. Now it's magnitude minus 4.4. And the smaller the number of the magnitude, the brighter something is. So here is Venus getting much, much brighter. And but also appearing larger in the sky. So the relative size is correct. Now, why is Venus appearing larger in the sky? Is Venus growing? No, it's becoming apparently larger in the sky because it's becoming closer to us in its orbit. And if we continue on this path, what we find is that as it becomes more and more of a crescent, it's still getting brighter, even though it's a crescent. Normally, we think of a crescent moon as being the dimmest moon, but in Venus, a crescent Venus is the largest moon because it's closest to us. So even though only a small portion of it is illuminated, it is so much closer to us that it's larger in the sky, and the total brightness is more. So we'll keep going. Now it's starting getting dimmer again. Look how skinny it is, and look how big it is. And this is just about the time when we would say it's new moon, only it's new Venus, which means it's almost directly in between us and the sun. And so we can see it's illuminated, it's only 3%, for example. And it's almost exactly in the direction of the sun, okay? And we will keep going. Okay, now you see the light is coming around the top. Okay, so it's between us and the sun, and that is August 15th. So we will have Venus as an evening star basically from now till late July. We'll have Venus in the sky. Okay. And then once we continue, then it's going to flip and go into the morning sky, and it will be a morning object in the September, October of this year. Okay, so back to today. Boing, back zoomed out, and we'll put the ground back in again. Okay, so that's how we do this. Now, two things I promised you. I want to show you what the eclipse will look like at your location. And the other thing I want to show you is how to put the comet into your system. Okay. So as far as the eclipse, what you can do is pick your date and time. So let's do 2024. Oops. 2024, and let's go to April 8. And we'll go a little earlier in the day. All right. And now we're going to center on the sun. So let's zoom out, find the sun, zoom in. All right, so here we are at 11:42 Central Time, Central Daylight Savings Time. It's -5, and here comes the moon, and it's so let's turn on time. Now, one of the things you can do with Stellarium is you can increase the size of the moon, you can increase the size of the sun, but you've got to make sure they're both the same or it won't do your eclipse right. It's best to have it, neither of them expanded if you want to do accurate eclipse timings, okay? So now let's speed up time by hitting L a few times. Boom. Okay. So this is how we're going to find our first contact. For us, it will be about 12:20. Zoom in just a bit more so we can really, yep. See, there's that first contact. All right, now let's speed up time some more. Now in Houston, we won't be total, but we're going to be pretty dark. So this is about maximum for us, and it's going to be at 1:40 p.m. our time. And it will show you if I click on it gives you the eclipse magnitude of 0.943, and the eclipse obscuration is 94%. So that shows you what it will be in Houston. Now, change it to your location. So who wants to pick a location? Anybody want to offer their location?
How about if we do Hugo, Oklahoma? I'd have to look up the lat long real quick.
What's the name of your town?
It's East O's, Hugo, Hugo.
Hugo. Oklahoma.
It should be there.
Yeah, see, it's not a big enough town that it would know that. I wonder if Lawton's on here. Yeah, Lawton's on here. That's relatively close. Okay. But yeah, so you might have to let's zoom out, find the sun again, center it with the space bar, zoom in, and you notice that the part of the sun which is not covered for you is on this side. The part that wasn't covered for us is on that side. So it says totality is between you and me. Okay. So this is obscuration, also about 94% in lawn. Now it is total in the southeastern corner of Oklahoma, but let's go to Richardson. Let's see if this is the right Richardson. There you go. So in Richardson, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, guess what? They have totality. Okay, and again, you can move time back and forth to get the exact time of first contact, second contact, third contact, and fourth contact. And if you go to October 14th, you can see the annular eclipse. Okay, so let's go to date. Of 2024, October 14th. Okay, and here we are in Richardson. All right, so let's back up time. So it's a little earlier in the day, local time. Hit J a few times. Okay, so Richardson doesn't get a nice annular. It's still a partial. So let's now go to Corpus Christi. Let's see if Corpus Christi is on here. Yep. And they will see it a little before, so let's back up time for them. Baby. Wrong direction. Okay, so there's Corpus. It has a perfectly annular view of the sun. Now, Stellarium puts that corona behind there so you know where it is, but in fact, the corona is not going to be visible except during totality. Okay, so don't think you're going to see the corona during an annular, but it's possible that if that one side of the sun is completely covered, you might see some prominences on that one side that's completely covered. But if it's an annular or a partial, you never are allowed to view it with your naked eyes. DeLand, Florida. I don't think DeLand, Florida is going to be. Do you want the annular or do you want the total? I don't think you're going to get either one.
Whatever you can do, I'll be grateful for.
All right. Well, let's see what the land looks like. First, I want to make sure I keep this selected. And let's go to the land for, let's see if anybody. Huh. Yeah, that looks like Florida. Okay. Okay, so here we are at Eastern time, so it's UTC -4. Okay, it recognizes your time period. And so the moon travels its diameter in about an hour. So that's why it takes about an hour for the partial phase happen on the way in and an hour for the partial phase on the way out. So this, let's scoot you up a little bit. Let's see how we're doing. 54%. Looks like that's what you're gonna get for the annular. You want me to try the total for you?
Yes, please.
All right. It's okay. I'll stop time rolling. I'll pop out date and time. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Now let's see where our sun happens to be this day. All right, here's the moon approaching the sun again. So let's click on the sun, spacebar to center, slash to zoom up. And now let's turn on time. There's 9, 10, 11. Here comes the moon here, 12. All right, now let's turn on time. Find when I have that open, it doesn't want to use the JKs. Okay, now that's about 58, almost 59. Let's see if we get any better than that. 59, 59, and back down. Yeah. So the best you're going to do is 59%. Okay. But now you can
Okay.
see, well, that's still not bad. You won't get dark. You don't really notice it getting dark till it's above 90%, in my opinion. But
Okay.
you can still see this. In other words, you can still project it through a straw hat or through a colander. And I'm doing a bunch of trainings on using on eclipses. So if you are interested in getting the eclipse training, sign up on my eclipse email list. Okay, so now the last thing I want to do, let's go back to today and let's zoom out. All right. Now we want to see where that pesky comet is. And there's a really cool thing that oh, by the way, I should mention, once you get it organized to exactly where you want to be, so let's go back to Houston. I'll return to default location. We'll do that. Okay. So I'm back in Houston now, and I want to see where the comet is. So once you get it how you want it, you go to configuration window and main, and it says save view and save settings. That will now write the new config file for you and put your settings in there and your location in there. So the next time you start up Stellarium, it'll look just like this.
Can you repeat that part, please?
Do what?
Can you repeat that last part
So
about the way to save it?
this button here that says save view and save settings. Okay, hit both of those and it will take all the settings, your location, your favorite direction of view, your favorite zoom. It will put those all into your config file. And so the next time you start up Stellarium, it will look just like this. The date and time will be different, of course, but the view will be the same. Okay. And so like if I use a lot of of time a planetarium that has a mirror, all I have to do is click on spheric mirror distortion, and it'll automatically go into the mode where I can show it directly on a mirror in my planetarium dome. I'm going to turn that back off for here. All right, now, so more tools. So let's get the Comet. Let's go to plugins. All right, now there is something down here that's called Solar System Editor. Okay, and default, it should say load at startup. Okay, so that's good. If it didn't say load at startup, then you have to click it and then restart Stellarium. But since it was already loaded, so now we'll hit configure. And now let's go to Solar System. And we're going to say, all of this is on that cheat sheet, by the way, but I just want to show you how to do it. Import orbital elements.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to hit comets. Okay, and then I want to say what bookmark file I'm going to do. I'll pull down here. MPC list of observable comets. Okay, I'm going to click there. And then I'm going to hit get orbital elements. Okay. And now I want to find one. So I'm going to do C/2022 E3 ZTF. Okay. And so I'm going to say, add that object. Bing. Okay, so it now went into that file. It went to find that comet and it put its orbital elements into our software and it's done. Okay, so now, close some of these windows. Now let's look north. Come on. And look, there it is. Comet C22 E3 ZTF. And if I couldn't find it, I can do the find function under search window. And I can type in C/2022 ZTF. Okay, so now it's found it and centered it for me. Now it's just coming up for us right now. So let's see what happens over the course of the night. So again, to make time speed up, we hit the L key. Each time we hit the L key, it makes it go a little faster. So we're going to watch. Here's 7 p.m., 8 p.m. See, I'm looking at the time down here. 9, 10, 11, 12. Look, it's in between the North Star and the Big Dipper. See the Big Dipper here? See the North Star here? 2 o'clock. I'm trying to find when it's highest in the sky. It's going to be about like that. It's when it's due north, it'll be highest in the sky. Almost there. So that's 5 o'clock in the morning. So tonight it's going to be highest in the sky at 5 o'clock in the morning, but it's going to be good. You know, starting at midnight will be up above, you know, most of the you know, junk along your horizon, if you've got a good view of the north. And so now let's make time go forward day at a time using the equals key. Long. Wait, we'll go back. It thinks it's going to be 5.67, which is almost naked eye, not quite, but binoculars. So there it is, 5.58 tomorrow, 5.5 the day after. So it's continuing to get brighter, 5.44. That's on the 30th, that's Monday night. And on Tuesday night, it's 5.41. So for the next few days, and you notice it went from between here and the North Star to passing the Big Dipper. Okay. Now, if you have a program on your computer, if you have a computerized telescope, now you can pull out its right ascension and declination right here and punch that into your computer and have it go. If you've got to go to a telescope, it will take you directly to the comet. But the nice thing about this is it tells you what time of day, what direction to look, what's the best time of night. And one of the things you can do with Stellarium is you can turn on the altitude azimuth grid. So, and these are in 10 degrees. So it's, 15 degrees west of north, and it's 10, 20, 30 degrees high at that time of that date. Does that make sense? So on the 31st, let's back up and see when it's highest in the sky. On the 31st is earlier in the evening, which makes it nice. So that's why a lot of people are saying the best times to see it is going to be this weekend. Now, the one thing you do have to watch out for is this pesky moon. Okay, so this moon is going to be approaching full. So, be aware that moonlight's going to be can be a problem. But that's the highest it's going to be in the sky on the night of the 31st, and for me, it'll be right around midnight. Okay, does that make sense? Is everybody with me? Okay, so I can turn on and off the azimuthal grid. I can turn on the celestial coordinate grid so you can see what its right ascension and declination is directly. Okay. And another fun thing you can do is turn on and off the constellation artwork. You can turn on and off the constellation labels. You can turn on and off the constellation lines. Okay. Now, this is what I was telling you about the constellation art. See how these are all gray? All right. If you want to spruce them up and make them not gray.
That is awesome.
Isn't that fun? Oh, and there's one more that's not on here that you can add to it. And I think it's the letter B. Yeah, which is the constellation boundaries. Now, see, they're really, really dim. You see them red? And I like when I teach constellations, I like to teach them that they're really not the pictures. They're really not the lines. They're really areas. They're like states. So every star or planet in the sky is in a region of the sky, which is assigned to one or more of the constellations. All right, so one of the cool things you can do is, again, we can go into the sky and viewing options and go to markings. And we can make all the lines. So like, see, I'm making the ecliptic line larger, brighter. I can make it thicker, and I can make it a different color if I want to. So I can do All right, now in sky cultures, you can, here's where you increase the thicknesses of the sky mountains. See how those boundaries got brighter and thicker? Okay, so that made them thicker, but I can also change their color to make their color stand out more. Okay, so I can change the color of those boundaries. I can make them bigger, so when I'm teaching about constellations, then it makes it really obvious that no constellation, and maybe the picture may override from one to the other, but the region of the sky is never shared between one and the other. The other thing that's kind of fun about the constellations is now that we have the boundaries, you can see that not all constellations have the same time on the ecliptic. Look at Virgo. Virgo, the ecliptic is in Virgo for a huge swath, not just 30 days. Here's Leo, there's Cancer, here's Taurus the bull. Now he's got a nice long period. Okay, Orion almost makes it to the ecliptic, not quite. I mean, it just a gnat's breadth from being an ecliptic constellation. So let's move ahead. And what we discover is if we go, actually I want to go back to December. And what we discover is that okay. So here we are in December the 4th, and here's the sun. And so here's Libra, okay? Here's our huge friend Virgo. Here is Scorpio. Scorpio technically only has a teeny tiny piece of the ecliptic, okay? The sun in early December is actually in Ophiuchus. So this guy here, and his part of the ecliptic goes from here to here. So if you were born in the first 20 days of December, you are actually an Ophiuchus. And there's Sagittarius. So that's kind of a little known thing, is that there's actually 13 constellations that the ecliptic passes through, and Scorpius is very small and Ophiuchus is very large. Okay, well, so then let me go back, and I'm going to go back to the configuration window, going to main, and I'm going to say save view and save settings. Okay, now let's go quit Stellarium and go back and look at that config file again. All right. Come on, baby, come on, back up. I pitched you out of the way. All right, so here's the config file, and we told it to save. So here it is, January 26th at 6 p.m. All right, so let's right-click it and edit it. And it is just a text file. So you can go in and edit any of these things, but do be careful. Okay, if you really mess it up, that's when it's nice to, before you edit it, save a copy in case you really mess it up. And if worse comes to worse, just throw the file away and start over and create yourself a new one. Okay, because it is possible to mess this up. But everything that's a toggle in Stellarium will show up as either true or false. Okay. So here's where we can change the font size. If we want to make this font size bigger, we can, well, that's on meteor share, so it's not that important. So we want to have the satellites enabled. Yeah, they are. And that's kind of cool. You'll see satellites go by now all the time. You can have the Milky Way on and off. You can also make the Milky Way brighter if you want. So here's the Milky Way intensity. I sometimes crank it up to 2 or even 3. Okay, and that just makes it brighter. So all of these things, flags, planet labels, okay, all those things, true and false means at startup, that's what it will be. Okay. Now, if you go to the GUI section, now here are all these colors. So here's the constellation boundary color. This is, we changed it. So this is how we changed it. Okay. So let's make it, and this is red, green, blue. So let's make it 0.9. So it's mostly red. Boop, boop, boop. 0.9 and 0.1, not much green, and 0.01 and not much blue. Okay, so RGB value. So this is, we're changing that constellation boundary color to be mostly red. Okay, and then there's also the boundary thickness, which we also changed. Okay, so there's tons and tons and tons of things here. And this is whether you auto hide the toolbars. Do you want them visible all the time, or do you want them to hide unless you pop them out? Okay. Now, these are all the buttons. Do you want the buttons to show on those pop-outs? And so anything that's true here will show as a button. Okay. Right. And this is your initial location. Again, if you know your latitude and longitude, you can now just type it in here and save it. Okay. All right. So then we'll just do a Control S to save it and close it. And now we've edited the config file. So now the next time we open Stellarium, it'll come back to the place we were. And it will also remember that we wanted the red for the constellation boundaries. But there's, like I said, boom, now they're way too bright. So we might want to go in and make their thickness smaller again. So that's under sky culture. And we changed the color to red, so now we don't need to have the width quite so much. Okay. Do you see how that works? Now, you notice it now doesn't say Western, it now says modern. So when you want to get sort of the standard sky culture, you choose modern. You used to choose Western, but now you choose modern. But you can do Lakota, you can do Hawaiian, you can do Greek, you can do Egyptian, and that will bring up all of their different constellations. Okay, but the one we normally do is called modern. All right, so now I'll go back to my main configuration, and I will say save view and save settings. So now again, it will come up with the boundaries on, but maybe I don't want to have the constellation art as being a default, and maybe I don't want to have the boundaries as a default, so I'll hit B. All right, and so now I'll go back to main, save view and save settings. Now there's keystrokes, and I gave you the link to my cheat sheet where I have all my favorite keystrokes, but there's a bunch more. And if you go to this help window, the question mark, it will show you all the keystroke shortcuts. Okay, add a solar day, add a sidereal day, add a solar week. All of those are very helpful. Okay, so these are the ones that you can use. So like I said, set time to now is 8. Okay. And K means set normal time rate. That means stop and go to 1 second per second. All right, so that's a quick and dirty of Stellarium. There's tons more. But I think that will get you started. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. All right, does anybody have any questions about Stellarium?
I have a question. You mentioned about you sent us an attachment. Where is that? That had the information that you went over with us.
Oh, did you get my email today?
This was forwarded to me from my team leader for our science department.
Oh, well,
So
great.
I'm not sure. But I did put my email in and name for me to be able to get access to
Okay,
this
hang on.
Zoom call.
Let me put it in. Let me put the link in the chat.
That? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I sent out an email to everybody who had signed up. And let's see. All right, so there's two things that I put in the email that I want to show you. And so here is the cheat sheet. And here is color constellations. All right, so I put those both in the chat.
Thank you.
Okay. So now let me, so this one it has my favorite quick and dirty shortcuts, the one that I use the most often. And then this one has the color art. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to copy this. All right, and then I'm going to there is a way that says get out of full screen mode. Okay, is that button, which is very handy to know. Now, I want you to move out of the way, though. You need to get to the top. Well, I may have to quit Stellarium. Get it out of the way. All right, so now I go to Firefox, for example, and I will paste this in. And it's downloading it. It's called Stellarium Modern Color Art.zip. And I'm going to look at it. Okay. And then I'm going to go to that in my downloads folder. And I'm going to hit extract all. And it says, where's the destination? This is kind of in the way. Let's get you out of this way. Is it going to put it on? No, let's not put it in. Let's put it in downloads. Okay. All right. So now it has downloaded the Western color images. Oops. Where did it go? Let's do it. Okay, so it's going to extract all those pictures into that folder. And it doesn't take long to unzip it. Anytime there's a bunch of things you want to do them together. All right. So now here are all the color ones. And I'm going to select all by doing Control A, and I'm going to copy them by doing Control C. And then I'm going to go into my Stellarium in my in the program files. So it's program files, Stellarium. So there's the one we just installed today. And now we're going to go into landscapes. Sky cultures. Sky cultures, and now we want to go to modern. So here's, oh, baby. I'm going to go to modern. So here's all the black and white ones. Now I'll do Control V, and I'm going to paste all of those ones, and it says you got the same names. So let's say, yeah, we're going to replace them and do this for all of them. Continue. All right, so now it's replacing all of those black and white ones with color ones. Okay. Bing, ding, ding, ding. Okay, so now all the modern ones I've replaced with the color one, versions of the same ones. And now if I go back and restart, let's get rid of Firefox. And go back to Stellarium. What does that say? Mesa mode. What the heck is Mesa mode? Well, like I said, they've made some changes. So it's doing plugins of exoplanets. Now, when I turn on the constellation art, which is R, there we go. Now we have the color ones. So just be aware that if you
That is beautiful.
if you update your Stellarium, it will overwrite these color ones with the gray ones again. So you either have to save them out, which we've already saved them in the downloads folder. So you should be able to still find them in the downloads folder unless you cleared it out. And then you just recopy them in again. Okay, and that's also on the cheat sheet. So that's what I want to talk about Stellarium today. Any more questions?